Hi, Jacqueline back with Willow, Ojai Raptor Center's barn owl ambassador. Willow came to us about a year ago, similar to how Bob did, obviously as an imprinted fledgling after she had either escaped from whoever illegally raised her or they released her back to the wild. Animal control actually found her wandering on a crowded street, letting people approach her, and they assumed that she was injured. They brought her to us, where we determined almost immediately that she has obviously imprinted on people because she didn't have a natural fearful response to us when she arrived, as all of our wild patients do. It's important to clarify that imprinting and domestication are not the same thing at all, and in fact imprinted wild animals can sometimes be more aggressive towards humans than parent-reared wild ones, especially when they reach maturity. We work really hard to gain the trust of our ambassadors and train them for a life in captivity, being handled by and being surrounded by humans, which is totally unnatural for wild animals. Wild animals do not like to hang out with people. We try and limit our interaction with our wild patients to only when absolutely necessary because our presence stresses them out. They never understand that we're helping them and they never say thank you. But that's okay because wildlife rehabilitation isn't about making friends with or hanging out with wildlife or petting them. It's about respecting their autonomy and their wildness so they will be successful once they're released back to where they belong. Barn owls are amazing creatures for multiple reasons. First of all, they're the most widespread species of owl on our planet. They can be found on every continent except Antarctica, and they're really adaptable to many different kinds of habitats. They are commonly found in cities and suburbs. Chances are you have heard one at night. They make a one-note loud piercing screech or scream. If you've ever heard anything like this at night that sounds scary, it's probably a barn owl. Barn owls also have the most acute sense of hearing than almost any other bird on our planet. They can actually locate the precise location of their prey by sound alone. So all owls have a facial disc of some kind, but barn owls have a really defined facial disc, as you can see on Willow's face here. So that disc is made up of some short, stiff, special feathers that they can actually move and direct sound into their ear holes, which are located asymmetrically. So they use their facial discs, that kind of like a parabolic reflector, in conjunction with their asymmetrical ears, which you can see in this boreal owl skull. And they use both of those features to determine the azimuth as well as the elevation of sound simultaneously using triangulation, which basically gives them three-dimensional hearing, which is really cool. This also makes barn owls really efficient hunters in a variety of settings at night. Barn owls are also cavity nesters like American kestrels, which means they will use nest boxes and they will return to the same nesting site each time to nest. Barn owls also have really high metabolism, so a barn owl will eat about the same amount as a great horned owl. Great horned owls are much larger. Barn owls also have a lot of babies. They can lay up to 13 eggs in one clutch. That's a lot of eggs, but more typically they'd have between 5 and 7 viable babies in a clutch. They also can clutch multiple times a year. So most birds, they're one and done till the next year. But barn owls can clutch multiple times, and in places like California, where we have awesome weather, they basically just breed all year long. All of those things together make barn owls like the best natural rodent control that exists on our planet. If you take one pair, they do mate for life like most raptors do. So one pair, let's say they have 3 clutches in 1 year and 6 babies in each clutch, that one pair can kill up to 6,500 mice a year or about 1,600 rats a year. That's a lot of rodents. Some rodenticides or rat poisons may become banned, especially when we find out about how harmful they are. In fact, in California just a few weeks ago, we had a major victory here where anticoagulant rodenticides were banned. Yay! Even so, the fact is that rodenticides in some shape or another are still always going to exist for both personal applications or consumer applications like these green pellets, which are commonly sold in hardware stores, and as well as professional applications like bait boxes, which we've all seen because they are everywhere. Willow's showing off her back to you guys right now. But just because something is legal to buy doesn't mean that it's safe to use or it should be, even if it seems really convenient or efficient. But in the case of rat poison's actually not that efficient. Yes, it kills rats, but if you still have an environment that's attractive to rodents and you're not doing anything to exclude them from that area, you're just gonna keep having a rodent problem. And if you've decided to go the way of using poison, you're gonna have to keep using that poison, which then just creates a never-ending deadly cycle to wildlife and to pets. This is because rodents don't just die after eating these poisons. They can live for days after they've ingested these toxins, and during that time they're dying and they're becoming more lethargic and slow, which means they're easy for large larger predators to kill them, and not just raptors, that's everything higher on the food chain. There's another wildlife rehabilitation facility called WildCare that did a really important study. Now this center takes in all kinds of wildlife, not just raptors, mammals and everything, and they see them to their release. They did a study that showed that 76% of their predatory patients tested positive for rodenticides in their system. Not just one, they tested positive for many different formulations because there's so many different formulas on the market. And a lot of those animals were asymptomatic, meaning they weren't showing any symptoms. And that's because these toxins can stay in tissues of animals for months and months. When these poisons accumulate in their systems and weaken their immune systems, then that again results in not obvious ways in larger predators. Some of those things can be loss of mental acuity, which makes raptors more susceptible to being in accidents, like say being hit by a car. A lot of our mountain lions, bobcats, and coyotes are succumbing to and dying from mange. Mange is a parasite that these animals should be able to control and fight off, but because their immune systems are constantly being barraged by these poisons that they're not able to detoxify, they can't fight off mange and they're dying from it. The Ojai Raptor Center was part of a really exciting study about 3 years ago with the Ventura County Public Works, where they proved that attracting natural predators with the use of raptor perches to attract hawks and nesting boxes to attract barn owls was actually just as efficient as using bait boxes. When we practice integrative pest management, that's using a combination of techniques in conjunction with attracting natural predators like habitat modification of daily practices, and exclusion, that is proven to be a safer and more effective way of prevention of pests for the long term. The Ojai Raptor Center has tons of resources on our website about rodent control and safe pest management. We even have sample letters that you can write to local HOAs or businesses or neighbors, explaining to them the dangers of rodenticides and safe alternatives. We also sell our nest boxes. Willow's getting a little over being in this corner. She's getting bored. I'm gonna try and wrap it up. But we also sell our barn owl boxes and nesting boxes. We also have free plans on how to build those, as well as the raptor perches that I talked about before. We also provide consultations and video presentations about rodenticides and safe alternatives. Working with wildlife is sometimes unpredictable. We do use something called operant conditioning to train all of our ambassadors, which basically means we give them the power to choose whether or not they want to participate. While this was a really short video, you have no idea how many takes I've done, and Willow is getting a little bored and over standing here, so I put her away. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned one way that you can be a better neighbor and steward to wildlife, raptors, and our shared environment. And like a lot of things today, some of the most powerful ways that we can make positive change as individuals are the choices we make every day and as consumers. So I hope you consider how your decisions affect wildlife and our shared environment. If you want to learn more about our wildlife rehabilitation work, our education programs, or how to become a donor, please visit our website, ohairaptorcenter.org, and follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook, to see what we're up to every week.